Hi, everybody. This is Pastor Laila with another episode of Meeting You There. We are going to be talking today about the value of open minds. We value intellectual curiosity, questions, and conversations. We engage faith with our whole selves, body, mind, and spirit. Please don't check your brain at the door. Today, my guest is Pete Bliss, and I am on my way to my computer, this meeting on my computer. I was trying to remember when was the first time that I met Pete, and I can't remember because I've seen you and been in conversations with you and in relationship with you in so many different areas of the church. Like you play in the 5 o'clock worship band, bass, correct?
Yes.
And creation care, you're sometimes seen switching out light bulbs for more energy efficient ones, or doing research about how we can be more energy efficient and better stewards of this creation. Pete can also be seen doing the logistics for the Feed My Starving Children packs when we did those, back when we could actually be together in person. Is the sound guy for Windjammers, Prior Lake Community Band, all sorts of different things. I'm missing a ton of things, but Pete, thank you for all that you do for our community and in our community. And thank you for being with me here today.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. I do what I can, which is usually something minor and in the background so nobody notices me, hopefully.
And if you weren't doing all of your quote unquote minor in the background things, we would not be where we are or who we are today as a community. So thank you for that. And we're talking today about intellectual curiosity, questions, and conversations as it relates to our life of faith and also just our life of life. I guess you can't really separate the two. But I find it funny, this line that says, please don't check your brain at the door. I don't know about you, but in this time of pandemic, I often feel like I left my brain at home.
Right. As we noticed this morning when somebody had to remind me that it was Wednesday.
Well, I know it's Wednesday because the trash cans are out in my neighborhood.
Yeah. But that's the line of that whole value statement that really sticks out. Maybe it's because, it's sort of tongue in cheek, but it's not very serious sounding, but it makes a point.
Yeah. So you were given the choice between a few different ones of these value statements to talk about. Tell me what it was about this particular one that drew you to it. Well, did you throw a dart at the wall? Did you flip a coin? Or was it something within this value statement where you said, yeah, I want to have a conversation about that one?
Well, maybe it's the lesser of evils, but I feel less unprepared to discuss that one than others. It is something that I've thought about a reasonable amount and had some discussions at home with my adultish kids, and talked a little bit more about what that means and how it contrasts it to maybe other traditions or people that I don't want to say they check their brain at the door, but view religion or view the Bible differently than I do. Sure.
So it sounds like it's been really valuable for you to feel free to engage faith with questions and curiosity. Has there been a time in your life when your perspective has shifted because of questions you've asked, or if you've learned something where you went, okay, that makes more sense, or can you think of a shift that you've undergone, a time you've changed your mind?
not rapidly. I mean, in the movies, it always seems like it happens rapidly. You have somebody
Sure.
in the plot that's really a jerk, and then somebody tells them that they're a jerk, and over the period of, a half hour, they turn
Montage.
into they go, wow, cool. I know how to be a good person now. In my experience, or at least my memory, it things like this, are much more gradual over time. But you realize one day, oh, I'm looking at that different than I used to. I wonder, it doesn't seem to me like it's often somebody just stopped you and said, hey, have you considered this? But maybe 1,000 of those different little pieces that kind of bring you to a different place of understanding.
Yeah. Is there maybe one example that you can remember from memory, or is it a general sense?
A general sense. Let's just say my approach to the church, because I grew up, I've been in the Lutheran ELCA and ALC before that church since I was, in the womb. My mother was an organist, choir director. My father worked for the ALC in publishing, so you were just kind of there. And then you go to Sunday school and go through confirmation, and you learn all this stuff. And then actually, there was sort of a shift in my when I was in college, because I worked at the church, which I had literally been in already for 20 years in there. And that really was a shift, because now you kind of saw a little bit behind the curtain and saw some of the conflict that's normal human interaction that happens there. And that kind of really turned me off as a, not fully formed adult, and said, well, these churches, they're not really good places. These people disagree with each other and do things. But then half a dozen years later, my first wife was very sick and passed away, and lots of people were praying for us, and I was really struggling with that, because I wasn't going to believe in these miracles. We're praying for a miracle, and I felt like I couldn't really do that, because what happens if it doesn't come? So, but I did pray for strength for myself and Sue and everybody else, and I really felt that was helpful. So I kind of came around to saying, okay, well, it's more than just more than that, stuff that happens during the week where people are doing that. And then through another course of events and my now wife, Joan, kind of came back to thinking the church was a pretty good place and a pretty good community, but I was seeing it altogether different. And it was no one spot in there that's like, oh yeah. But it just sort of growing up and getting more information and that sort of stuff brought me back.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm sorry.
Well, that's a long time ago, but it was kind of the best example I could think, at least related to church and religion, where I felt, I can pinpoint, I can identify some shifting ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes the miracle is just that we can keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Breath keeps coming into the lungs, the heart keeps beating, we keep, waking up, the sun keeps rising and setting, and sometimes that is the miracle, right?
Yeah, and you never really set out and say, you know what, I think my ideas about this are gonna change. You just kind of say, well, this is the way I'm thinking about whatever this is, and that's the way I'm gonna be.
Right. Yeah, I had an experience when I also grew up in the church. My dad was a seminary professor and a pastor and a licensed psychologist. So a shrink's kid and a pastor's kid. And I made it. I know. Yeah. My dad's awesome. So, I had similar, I was like, I don't know what I believe. And what if I don't believe exactly what everybody else believes in, all of these things? And I remember just breaking down when I must have been 12. And my dad, it's a long story and I don't want to hog the conversation, but in that moment, my dad was available to me, and I told him what I was feeling. And I told him that I was really ashamed of what I was feeling, ashamed of these doubts and these questions. And he just held me. He wasn't mad. He just held me. And he said that doubt is not the opposite of faith. Doubt is an integral part of faith. And it's a part of this process of the journey of going from a place where we believe because we're told to believe, or because it's all we know, to a place where we believe because of our own convictions. Mm-hmm. And that journey can be scary. And as much as faith, the life of faith is a communal thing, it's also very much in individual work, right? It's individual work that we do collectively. We can't do alone. It's individual work that we can't do alone. This spiritual growth, and that was just really something that really stuck with me forever, because I veered away from the church for a long time, and I always held on to that conversation where it was like, okay, I might not feel 100% connected to God. I might not know what I believe, but I know that it's okay and God loves me, Right.
And that's it's so cool and wonderful that he approached it that way. But it's, as a parent who's also a pastor that's been raising their child in the faith all this time, it's got to be kind of scary to say, oh, yeah, it's okay to not to wonder, to doubt that, that all that stuff that we've been telling you.
Yeah.
Seems like pastors' kids fall one direction or the other. You don't have a lot of middle of the road pastors' kids. At least the ones that I know.
Yeah.
You fell the right way.
Well, spoiler alert, I came back to the church.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I really am just so incredibly grateful for all of the examples in scripture too, of people who are like, I believe, help my unbelief, right? That's a quote.
Right.
From, I don't remember where. I could really quick edit it in so I sound super smart, but
Dave,
but I left
this spot.
I left my brain at home. No, I checked my brain at the door. Just kidding. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So what does it mean to you, or how does it feel to you to know that you can be continually asking questions and digging into science? And I know you look at climate science and all kinds of things, and and to know that is not at all incompatible with your faith and your religious tradition.
Well, it sort of has to be that way. And, it's wonderful to hear you say that, but otherwise I would just have to tell myself, it's going to be okay to not have these become compatible. Because if somebody came to me and said, no, the only way to view this is a literal, this is how many days it took the, earth to be made. God made the earth this way. And Noah really had this many days of rain. To look at it literally, I wouldn't be compatible with my, what I see in the world. So whether it's somebody wonderfully giving me permission to look at it that way, or deciding myself, that's the only way it can be. And that's good, because otherwise, I would be really suspect of a church or a tradition that said, no, it's got to be this way.
Yeah, really, I've been digging into some of the epistles lately, the letters in the Bible, and it's really fascinating to see how they're in the early church, and in Acts 2, actually, in the early church, they're grappling with these things, like how can this faith tradition be compatible with, how can the story of Jesus, life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, be compatible with all of these different cultures and all of these different traditions? And it's fascinating. And so I skim the surface of like neurobiology and neuropsychology and neurotheology, which is a thing now, which is really cool, where they do brain imaging and to see how your theology, if your theology has any sort of effect on your brain, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And then we could just talk for hours about that. So I skimmed the surface of that stuff. And it seems like the more I learn about these things that are these insights from neurobiology, neurotheology, neuropsychology, and any sort of insights that are like new, I'm like, wait a minute, that's actually biblical, right? Like that's what Paul was talking about in Romans. Wait, that's what Paul was talking about in Philippians. Wait, that's what Jesus was talking about, right? It's like, how did Jesus know this stuff? He lived 2,000 years ago. We didn't have this technology. We didn't have, brain imaging, but, and so it's just amazing to see how there's this truth and wisdom that's held in our tradition, and then that also pops up in these different, or is revealed through these different scientific explorations. But it makes sense if, God created this thing however many bajillion years ago or whatever, right? And it has had their hand in it and their spirit running in and through it the whole time. That we would find truths also in scientific exploration.
Right. Well, Jesus or Paul or Martin Luther, any of another number of others that would have been really insightful without the imaging and the technology, probably were able to figure out that there's something going on there. There's some connection. I wish I had a MRI so I could see what it was.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Pete, I'm so glad that you brought your whole self, body, mind, and spirit to our conversation today. It is so, so good to see you over the Zoom.
Yes.
And I really, really am looking forward to a time when we can be together in person again. And until then, I wish you and Joan and your family all the best.
Thanks. Yeah, it'll certainly will have a different appreciation for being together.
Absolutely.
Than we have and a lot of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that this value of intellectual curiosity, questions, and conversations really does also help us navigate this period of uncertainty as well. We get to move through this time with loose knees and gathering information and asking questions and moving through together. So, yeah. So thanks for the conversation. Again, I really appreciate you being with us.
Thanks for inviting me. It's good.
Yeah.